So I have 6 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's March 28th. This is a meeting of the Livingston County Board of Commissioners. As we do traditionally, if you would join us for a moment of silent reflection before we get going. Thank you. Now, if you would rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Here.
Commissioner Griffith. Here. Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Reeder is absent. Commissioner Helserman.
Here.
Commissioner Drick.
Here.
Commissioner Zajac is absent. Commissioner Gross.
Here.
And Commissioner Plank. Here. Quorum is present.
Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda is correspondence. This evening, we have 3 pieces of correspondence, 2 from Grand Traverse County, 1 from Iron County. The 2 from Grand Traverse County, one is a resolution of solidarity with the residents of Ukrainian descent. The other resolution from Grand Traverse County is a resolution urging state legislature to amend the Michigan Auto Insurance Reform Act to address a reimbursement cap for auto accident victims. And then our third resolution which is the one from Iron County, is a resolution urging the return of state workers to in-person operations. Looking for a motion to receive the correspondence and place on file.
So move, Gross.
Support Griffith.
Motion by Commissioner Gross, support by Commissioner Griffith. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is our first call to public. Here in the room, if you wish to speak to the board, you should have filled out a card indicating your desire to address the Board of Commissioners. I'd ask if the clerk has any cards from anybody here.
I do not.
We have an extended grace period. If you were unaware that a card was required and you want to address the board, we would still give you 3 minutes. So, but seeing nobody rushing to the.
Gentleman would like to.
Yeah, if you'd come up to the, and when you're done, just give the clerk the completed card, and that way we'll get your name spelled correctly for the minutes. And
Thank you, Wes. I appreciate that. My name is David Deal. I'm from the Hamburg Township area, Livingston County. Thank you for everything you guys do. I appreciate it. And I didn't prepare anything. I was just, we talked about this last week, some colleagues and I, and so I'm recording myself here because I want to make sure I remember what I said. But I'm here just to say, what are we doing about the machines in this county? Voting machines. Are there any plans to consider why we need machines for voting? As I understand it, precincts are designed so that there are about 2,000 people per precinct. I submit to you that most people working a precinct can count to 2,000, right? So why do we need machines? Does anybody have an answer for that? I don't know. So anyways, that's all I had to say. What are we doing about our machines? What would our path be to try to get rid of our machines and go to hand counting only? I see a lot of faces that look like they've never heard this question before. Am I misreading?
No,
The
Mr.
faces?
Deal, the call to public is a one-way conversation. It's your opportunity to present information. It's if you don't hear a reply, that's because that's the way it's set up. But certainly, I'll speak for myself. If you provide your contact information, I'll call you and we can chat about it.
I appreciate that. So just, I guess, in summary, we need to vote going forward like we've never voted before because our future depends on it. We need to fix the qualified voter rolls. We need to dig into the absentee ballots. We need to stop the drop boxes, stop the money coming in from the globalist elites, and we need to get rid of our machines. Okay, there's steps we need to take to fix the problems that we've seen in the past so that we can keep our republic going forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here in the room? A ditto. If you want to fill out a card, fill out a card and we'll know who the ditto came from. Okay, thank you. On Zoom, looks like we have Ms. Cowan. If you provide your name and township, you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. Lori Cowan from Unadilla Township. Just a quickie tonight. I hear the draft findings from the merit survey on broadband are completed. And I was hoping that maybe tonight you'll give us a time frame when you'll be able to present the findings to the public. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands on Zoom. So I'm going to go ahead and close the call to the public and remind citizens that there is a second call to the public at the end of the meeting, although that call to the public is limited to 2 minutes instead of the 3 minutes in this first call to the public. And just for the clerk, I just wanted, you saw that Commissioner Zajac arrived. Thank you. Let's see, item number 7 on the agenda is approval of minutes. It's not this evening. We have 2 sets of minutes, one dated March 14th for the Board of Commissioners, and the other is dated back from last year, December 22nd, from the Finance Committee. Looking for a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
So moved, Griffith. Support, Plank.
Motion by Commissioner Griffith, support by Commissioner Plank. Any corrections or additions to either set of minutes? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Minutes are approved. There are no tabled items from previous meetings, so we'll move to item 9, which is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion Smith. Support Helserman.
Motion by Commissioner Smith, support by Commissioner Helserman. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10 reports this opportunity for commissioners to share any information of significance with their colleagues. So I'd ask Commissioner Drick.
I've prepared a written note for everyone. Essentially, it says that there will be a candidate forum for Secretary of State candidates, time, place, location. And if you want to even ask a question, you can respond with a question. And it's critical that these are the people that are going to oversee the voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else?
Could you give the dates for people in the audience?
Sure. Yes. Sorry. Did you want to give the dates? Go ahead.
April 6, 2022, Crystal Garden. Doors open 5:30. The forum starts at 6:30. General admission's free. If you want to sit in the front row, you have to pay $20 and reserve a seat. And they would appreciate a RSVP to understand the number of people that might come. And you'd go to livingstonrepublicans.com.
Thank you. Any other commissioner?
I have a report.
Commissioner Helserman.
Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, there's going to be a Zoom presentation by Eric Frederick. He spoke at the MAC conference, and most people that speak to the MAC conference speak off of a script. And they read a lot of things. This fella was giving all of his facts just from his memory. he knows broadband. This is about broadband, and he's with the Connect the Nation project. They are going to be surveying all of I think it was 65,000 miles of Michigan roads to map out where all of the lines are and where the services are. And anybody interested in broadband, that's kind of, he, I think, is one of the experts that our county should connect with in our effort to bring broadband to the rural sections. So tomorrow, 1:30, I can give you the contact information if you're interested in joining.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? We do have a report this evening from our county administrator to address a opportunity presented by our Congressman Slotkin. So.
Thank you, Commissioners, for the chance to give a report tonight. I distributed on your desk information that we received on Friday afternoon from the Congresswoman's office regarding the House Appropriation Committee's Community Project Funding Initiative. You may remember last year we put together a project about 3 weeks' notice, I think, and got a project together. This year, it's a little bit tighter of a time frame. If we want to make an application, we would need to have a one-page summary submitted a week from today. And so I wanted to talk about that with you tonight to get a sense of if there's anything that you'd like us to pursue on that. If I understand the program correctly, there's $16 million or so in funding for the 8th Congressional District. I believe that 15 projects can be identified for funding. I don't think it's guaranteed, but the Congresswoman has the opportunity to select 15 projects. Applicants have to be state or local government entities in the 8th District or a public institution of higher education. And so I wanted to talk about this with you tonight because you understand our grant policy. Anything over 25,000, we need board authorization in order to submit any kind of application for any grant. And since the board isn't scheduled to meet again as a full board before that one-page summary is due, I thought we'd talk about this tonight. If it's okay, I'd like to suggest an idea that you can chew on and consider. As I was reviewing the information and trying to consider what kind of a project we could put together very quickly that might be a good fit for this program. One item that jumped out to me was the ambulance-related equipment that Director Feldposh had talked about with the board a few months back. If you remember, the cost estimate on that was a little over $1 million. And I took a look at what was approved last year through this funding, and there were similar requests that were approved for ambulances and equipment related to ambulances. And I think that EMS and public safety initiatives might get a good look for this funding. Specifically, Director Feldposh mentioned that we're looking for some power load ambulance fasteners and cots that would improve our stretcher fleet. This is the type of equipment that would limit the number of responders needed to load a patient into an ambulance. It reduces manual loading. The idea being that those career-ending back injuries go away. It's safer for the patient to be loaded that way and transported that way. Getting better equipment also might help with our retention efforts and our recruitment efforts in EMS. We've talked a lot about that. That's a very serious issue that we're facing and others are facing. And so because we have cost estimates in hand already, because we know it's eligible for consideration, I would submit to you that on a week's notice, we could probably get a decent application put together for that. But of course, we're trying to look strategically at this and think about a submission and what might make the most sense. So you all may have ideas as well. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to vet everything. So sorry to put you in this situation, but just the reality of the timing is if we are going to make an application, we kind of need to have some guidance tonight in order to get it ready next Monday. So excited about the opportunity to apply for something, but certainly interested in what you would like us to apply for. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Gross.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing this to us, Nathan. I just took a quick peek at our current list of ARPA fund requests, and we've been aware of the EMS request for some time, but there's another sizable one, and I'm just curious if we might have data sufficient to support a request, and that's the on-base implementation within the court system. And I was wondering if you could
Yeah,
let us know
about
where that stands.
about the same amount of cost for both of those projects. I think the reason that I hope the courts aren't listening, I know they are actually, but I think the reason that I would probably elevate the EMS request is specifically because of the direct impact on public safety for residents. It seems to be that those types of projects get better consideration. Not to say that on-base wouldn't, and it's definitely something that probably falls in the right range as far as a dollar amount that we might want to apply for. We had talked about on-base as an ARPA expense. I was also at MAC last week with Commissioner Helserman. There's some talk about the state maybe stepping up to help fund some court-related technology areas, and so might want to take a look at that. But yeah, it's tough because we could apply for a lot of things, and you identified a couple good ones. But I'm trying to think about what might be the most likely to be awarded, and I think there might be more of a public impact with the safety angle.
I have a tendency to agree with you, and I would definitely support the EMS request. But as I said, I noticed the on-base from the court system and just thought about it.
Sure.
Thank you. Jim, thanks.
Commissioner Plank.
I also support that. I think that would be a great idea to submit something like that, and especially since you already have all of the information and it's quick. I know you have a quick turnaround on this, so hopefully that won't cause any delays since you already have the information. So I completely support that.
Commissioner Zajac.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would be in support of submitting as many projects as we're ready to submit one page on. I mean, it's only one page. So to me, that stands out as a good project. The on-base stands out as a good project, which I think our courts could support us in putting a one pager together, even if the answer is no. Why would we not try? I would be in support of resubmitting our broadband project. I noticed there's a question on there that says, did you try this last year? I think the answer to that one is yes, and it shows at least a ongoing need for it. You mentioned the 16 million. I think, unless I'm misreading it, it says last year was 16 million. And it's
Yeah,
not
that might
that
be
there's
the
a
case.
cap
Yeah,
for
that might be
the
the case.
future. So I think that we should throw as many things out there as we can. And that way we have a better shot at least of one of them coming through. And I would add on to this project proposal list, the cost of 2 ambulances. I think there's a lot of work ongoing and discussing EMS work in the county. And I think that one of the roadblocks is always going to be capital. So if we try now to get that capital from another source, it allows us not to have to dip into our own Livingston County direct coffers for that. So those would be the 4 projects I would support. Thank you.
Commissioner Griffith.
Mr. Chair, if it would be the will of the board and also the chairman, I would like to recommend that because this needs to be fast tracked and I do fully support the public safety in terms of this fast turnaround for this grant application. If it would be the will of the board, I'd like to add this onto our agenda for this evening so that we might pass this and get this rolling for the deadline that's coming up quickly.
So there's a motion by Commissioner Griffith to amend the agenda, place this on the agenda for an actual vote tonight. I would just say from following our own rules, because this has not been discussed in committee, to place this on the agenda would require 6 votes.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Griffith, support by Commissioner Zajac to put this on to the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor of placing this on the agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
It's gonna be E on the agenda, or it'd be B.
Yes.
Is that what you?
Yeah.
We need more discussion now, or can we put all the discussion at that point?
I think we could put all the discussion and, as we discuss it in item E, unless there's anything else. Well, our administrator would be part of the discussion, when it gets to item 11E. So Yeah, I think it'd be better to just postpone the discussion until we get down to that part of the agenda, unless there's vigorous objections. I don't see any, so
Thank you. I'll
so
come
we'll
back. Thanks.
add it to the agenda. Thank you very much. Let's see, any other reports? Seeing none, we'll close out the reports and move to item 11, which is resolutions for consideration. We have 5, including the new one that we just added. The first one is Resolution 2022-03-041. It's a resolution approving an appointment to the Livingston County Tax Allocation Board. Is there a motion?
So move, Helserman.
Support Gross.
Motion by Commissioner Helserman, support by Commissioner Gross. This was discussed in committee, but as with all resolutions, any commissioner wanting the background information or having any questions is your opportunity. Are there any questions or any background required? Looks like not. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Next one is 2022-03-042. It's a resolution to authorize an additional extension of attorney services contracts for the Veterans Treatment Court and Intensive Treatment Mental Health Court made by the 44th Circuit and 53rd District Specialty Courts and Programs. That's a mouthful there. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Zajac, support by Commissioner Drick. Anybody want the background information or have any further questions on this resolution? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries. 2022-03-043. It's a resolution authorizing Livingston County to participate in the fiscal year 2021 Homeland Security Grant Program and to submit fiscal year 2021 Homeland Security Grant agreements. Is there a motion?
So move Gross.
Support Plank.
Motion by Commissioner Gross, support by Commissioner Plank. I'll say sound like a broken record. Any commissioners wanting the background information or have any questions on this one? It was discussed thoroughly in committee. Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2022-04 that should be that, shouldn't that be 03? We'll amend it as, so resolution 2022-04-044. It's a resolution establishing fiscal year 2022 budget for coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant for the sheriff. Is there a motion?
So move, Drick.
Support. Zajac.
Motion by Commissioner Drick, support by Commissioner Zajac. I entertain a motion to amend the number from 2022-04-044 to 2022-03-044. Does anybody want to make that motion to amend?
So move Gross.
Support Griffith.
Motion to amend by Commissioner Gross, support by Commissioner Griffith. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? It would change as the amendment passes. We're changing the resolution number. Going back to the main motion on the funding grant that was discussed in committee. Are there further questions or anybody want the background information? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion passes. So we're down to item E, which would, I guess, be resolution 2022-03-045. It is, how do we want to label it? I'd say a resolution to apply for the community funding project. Is there a
Commissioner-
motion? Or-
Commissioner,
yeah.
I believe it'll just be a motion at this point because we don't have anything in writing. So it will be a motion rather than a resolution, but I would recommend you check with legal counsel.
Is, would ask if our attorney, Matt Nordford would chime in on this.
Sure, you can go with either title. By the time you get the motion written into the minutes, it has the effect of a resolution. So they're fairly interchangeable. Either one would be fine. You typically would be making a motion from the floor in this nature, so it can be labeled a motion as well.
Okay, so I guess I would entertain a motion from one of my colleagues, and whoever makes the motion can make the title. So,
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve or authorize administration to apply for the community project funding this year by the April 4th deadline. And since we need somewhere to start, I'll start with the 4 projects I outlined, which were the ambulance CMS equipment, the 2 additional ambulances, the broadband project, and the on-base project.
is there support?
Support, Plank.
Motion by Commissioner Zajac, support by Commissioner Plank. Any discussion from commissioners or from Nathan? Commissioner Helserman.
Okay, I think we just need to decide, are we going to make one request with many things that's very large? Or are we gonna make several smaller ones? What's our chance of getting something passed?
Yeah, if I can comment, can I comment on
Sure,
that?
yes.
The Congresswoman's office confirmed that we are free to put in multiple requests. And so I would suggest that we not do one request with a lot in it, but that we do project-specific requests if we're going to do more than one. What's due next Monday is a 1-page summary on each request, and that's doable for us. We can get that done, whether it's 1 or 4. The Congresswoman's office will let us know which ones are most viable, if not all of them are. And then we would do a full application based on whether or not those requests make it through their vetting process. So I would suggest that, as Commissioner Zajac laid it out, if you want to do multiple applications, that we do multiple applications as opposed to one. Because if we do one, and for example, if the broadband project's in it, we're looking at one that's going to be $18-19 million, and it's going to get rejected right away because that might be all that's available for the whole district. But if we do 4, and they're broken up cost-wise, we're very likely, I think, to have better consideration that way. But we can submit more than one. They confirm that for me.
Anybody? Commissioner Smith.
You know, another item that may strike as a priority in today's times is the need to increase the cybersecurity that's facing IT right now. So if I could propose that we amend Commissioner Sajic's motion to include the IT cybersecurity funding that they requested, which I believe Director Toby already has an outline for. That may be a rather easy one to add to that list as well.
So there's a motion to amend to add what Commissioner Smith just said. I'm not going to repeat it. It's the cybersecurity. Is there support for the amendment?
Support, Plank.
Any discussion on the amendment, adding the cybersecurity as another project?
So, my question is, are we going to talk specifically about each separate one? Or are we going to put all the ornaments on one Christmas tree? That's.
Each separate one would have a page, and that would be a separate application from the next one. So we would have 1 page on cybersecurity if that amendment passes, 1 page on broadband, 1 page on base. And I'll talk to Director Feldposh, either 1 or 2 pages on the lift station equipment and the 2 ambulances. I don't know if we want to combine that into one or if those would be separate. Okay, so we'd have 1 page on each, and they'd each be a standalone project.
If that's the way we're doing it, I would like to suggest that Iosco Township has a project that will take them in a very short amount of time to 85% broadband capabilities. And they need 900,000 to $1 million to complete that project. So that all of Iosco Township will be covered. And it seems to me that that is a type of project that could be summarized. And so I would move that we would add that particular one because of where it is in its.
Just a point of order, Commissioner Hausman. We have a motion, an amendment on the floor that we are voting on. And then, so once we get a vote on that.
Okay.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, go ahead.
I don't think we could do an application on behalf of Iosco, but they could do an application.
Okay, because I was talking to Eric.
Mhm.
I was talking to Eric, and he said that we could do one in our own name. That was actually in Iosco Township. We would do the project in our name as opposed to the name of Iosco Township. But that's another thing, you know, when we're talking about something of that nature, there's a lot more discussion, but
So are there any further discussion on the amendment to add the cybersecurity as a project? Any further discussion on that? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? One nay, Commissioner Gross. Amendment passes.
then I would make a motion to amend that we put Iosco Township's request to complete Iosco Township's internet.
There's a motion to submit a project on behalf of Iosco Township to complete their internet. Is there support? Is there support? The amendment fails for no second. Let me comment as the chair. I strongly believe if Iosco Township wants to submit it, they have the abilities to submit. The opportunity for the community project funding is not limited just to the county, but it's also other governmental bodies within the county. I think it would be, my opinion, why I didn't support it is I think it'd be best if Iosco Township submitted their own request for community funding. Are there any further discussion on the amended multiple time amended motion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Zajac.
Thank you. I'll make an amendment in two parts. One, to address the questions from Commissioner Hauserman, just to make it official that each of these projects is with its own one pager. So that's the first part of my amendment. And then the second, I would like to add another project, and I'm going to lean on Commissioner Smith here for the proper name, but there's an organization within our community, Livingston County Council of Arts, I think is how it's identified, that I know is working diligently on a cultural improvement project for the county, looking at the Opera House. And so I would be in support of a project, looking for support of that organization as a benefit to the cultural environment of our county. I'll just pick a number and say $2 million for purposes of the project request. And yes, so that's my motion to amend.
There's a motion to amend, providing the Livingston Council of the Arts with $2 million for the renovation or changes to the Opera House. Is there support?
I'll support. I believe it's Livingston Arts Council.
That's why I needed his help.
Livingston Arts Council. So there's a motion by Commissioner Zajac, support by Commissioner Smith.
Is this for the whole, because we had several different pieces of paper from this organization, if I understand it correctly. And are you talking about everything that they're asking for? Is that your, is that your motion?
No, my understanding was they were asking for significantly more than the $2 million mark, but I think that as the county and the benefit that it would provide to our constituents, that we should seek to support them in this way, as it was an ARPA request. I think that this appropriately falls within this designation as well. And I see Administrator Byrd is
I'm squirming a little bit just
Squirming.
because nonprofits aren't eligible to apply, and I don't know that we can apply on their behalf. It's a question I can look into with their office, so I would just ask pending confirmation on whether or not that's doable. Because applications have to come from a government entity or higher education. And so my concern would be if we apply for that, are we then the ones hiring the contractors and doing all the work that the nonprofit was going to do, which I don't know that we want to sign up for that, but I would like a chance to get clarification on that. So if the amendment does pass, I would just like there to be notation that pending further investigation, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair to me. I'll make that as a friendly amendment to my amendment. Commissioner Smith, if he would support me, then we don't need to vote again. Okay.
Can I read this one back just to make sure that I have a correct understanding here?
Giving you a workout. today.
Yes, it is. My golly, my pen's a flying. So Commissioner Zajac moved to amend that all projects are submitted separately, and that also for the Livingston County Arts Council, there'll be a $2 million request for renovations to the Howell Opera House pending confirmation that this is an eligible request.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I think we have Betsy.
I would suggest we take the two amendments separately. Because he put two, he said two amendments at the same
That
time.
was part of my strategy, Commissioner Helserman.
So from a Roberts rule standpoint, there's a motion to divide the question, the amendment. Is there support to divide the Commissioner Zajac's amendment into two?
I don't have a second on the motion to begin with. Matt, is that, oh, Commissioner Smith? Okay, sorry.
Is there support to divide the question, the amendment? Support from Commissioner Zajac. Any discussion on dividing that amendment into two? Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor of dividing the question into two signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
Nay.
One nay, Commissioner Gross. So we'll take the amendment to, which one do you want to go first? Do the easy one.
The multiple projects.
That the amendment to clarify that these are multiple projects, not one single big project. Any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That one passes. So what was the, I'm getting
Yeah.
confused.
The second half of the question was the Livingston Arts Council, $2 million project to support their cultural developments within the community. That was the second one, and I'll just plug it quickly while I have the floor. And that is to say, I don't see the harm in at least making it a contingent project for consideration with the asterisks that if it's not eligible, then it doesn't go forward anyways.
Commissioner Zajac, I do have specifically that it is for renovations to the Howell Opera House. Is that your intent? I want to have the correct wording.
Yes, but I'm making
okay.
it sound much more
Pending
culturally friendly.
confirmation that this is an eligible request. Okay.
Importantly, it's that renovation is to improve the cultural benefit of the county.
Any discussion, question? Commissioner Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we all received the communication from the gentleman with the Livingston County Arts Council. It was my impression that it was a multi-million-dollar request for assistance that encompassed more than just the Opera House. I've been in the Opera House and I know it certainly could use a sizable chunk of money, but I'm not sure that if we submitted a request and it was approved of $2 million would, while it would help, it certainly wouldn't cover everything that's needed, and the council would still be looking for sources of funding. So while I know the Opera House needs it, I'm uncomfortable with supporting a request strictly on behalf of the Opera House.
Commissioner Plank.
I noticed that this is also on the ARPA fund request, $2.5 million from the Livingston Arts and Cultural Center for the Opera House preservation and renovation. So would it be that we would, let's just say this went through, this passed through and the money was available through this other, what we're discussing today. Are we also thinking then we would give $2.5 million during would that still be in consideration for ARPA funds? I mean, we have to ask ourselves that, right? So, you know, I'm kind of leaning same thing as Commissioner Gross. I'm thinking no. I don't think I would support this.
Anybody else speak? Commissioner Smith.
Just for clarity, and I'm not a member of the Arts Council, but I've been somewhat informed on this and that there is matching state money available. I believe the cap on that state money is $5 million. I also know that several foundations have been approached to also participate in the rehab of the Howell Opera Theater. I suspect administrator is correct in that nonprofits would not be eligible, but to your point, what's the harm in asking, I guess? So just so people know that this would not be the drop in the bucket, but there's a much broader activity, a much broader plan of attack to raise funds on this, and much of it is underway. So.
Any further? Anybody else speak to the issue that hasn't spoken yet? Yeah, I would like to chime in with a thought, and that is, you know, I did tour the Opera House today. I met with one of the, you know, board members, and you know, it's a nice, well, it's a historic facility, that's for sure. There's a lot of history there. And it actually is, you know, gets a lot of use right now. In my mind, I kind of question whether or not that really would qualify for ARPA funding. That's just a question that goes to them, and I have to research that a little bit deeper. But, you know, in terms of whether or not it would be eligible for the community project funding, I think it would be, as long as nonprofits are eligible, and we have the contingency in there to address that. If nonprofits are not eligible, then we're not going to move forward with it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. So anybody else would like to speak to this that hasn't spoken about for the second round of comments? I saw Commissioner Plank.
Thank you. One of the things that was running through my mind is if we were to submit this, and let's just say it was eligible and they decide that they're going to go ahead and fund this, and they're going to fund it over some of the other projects that I think are more important, the ambulances and cybersecurity. So if they are looking at our group projects and they turn around and say, oh yeah, well, let's go ahead and do the Howell Opera House, and we won't give them the money for the ambulances, I think that would be sort of detrimental to what we're trying to accomplish here. That's my opinion.
Commissioner Helserman.
I don't have a lot of comments, and I don't know that much about it, but I am uncomfortable. I'd say, put it that way, to give a positive vote at this time. So.
Any other comments?
Chairman.
Commissioner Gross.
We've been discussing a variety of potential uses for funding from this community project funding endeavor. But the one thing that has stuck with me is that the initial request or item that Administrator Byrd mentioned, the equipment for EMS. It strikes me that has much more benefit to the Livingston County community as a whole. And I would strongly recommend to my colleagues that we give that consideration. All of the things that we've talked about are definitely worthwhile projects, but I'm thinking about the benefit to the community. Some of these are very beneficial for small segments. Cybersecurity obviously would benefit the entire community, but I think the EMS equipment would be a project that would be very well received and could be something that could be done in the short term. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gross. Commissioner Zajac.
Mr. Chair, I can read the room and I will withdraw my motion.
Motion is withdrawn.
Thanks for all your hard work, Madam Clerk, but you can just scratch it out.
You got a lot of exercise in the hand, though. So-
Could we have a review of, I think we have 5 projects.
I'd say I would ask the clerk to, so that we get it from her, what's going to go into the minutes here.
This is going to be close to what's
Okay.
going to go in, okay? A motion to authorize county administration to apply for the House Appropriations Committee Community Project Funding Initiative by April 4th, 2022. The 4 projects include 2 ambulances, equipment for EMS, on base, broadband. Then there was a motion to amend to include or to add the IT security, cybersecurity project. That motion passed. The amendment that all projects will be submitted separately also passed. And so that is pretty much where we are.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner Helserman?
Okay.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Zajac.
Thank you. If I could have the floor just one more time, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it dawns on me, I'm looking at multiple faces of our department heads and this is a quick turnaround project that not everybody really had the chance to throw their own ideas out to. So if the chair, if it be the will of the chair, if it pleases the chair, I'd invite any department heads to throw out a project as well for consideration at this time. Be it your will.
I would say this, that the will of the chair is to, the opinion of the chair is we have 5 projects. I think that I'm hopeful that one of those will pass muster with our Congresswoman. And I would just as soon go forward with the 5, unless the commissioners have others that they would like to add beyond the 5. Any further discussion before we take a vote?
Mr. Chair, I would say, and I don't know if this may complicate things. If, our department heads are always welcome to speak to Nathan about their projects. And if there is a feeling that there's something worthy of us, you could, next Monday, we could have a discussion about it. If you wanted to call a meeting of the whole too, because that would be before the 5th deadline. So
I like that. our county administrator, Mr. Byrd, if you hear ideas that, think are worthy of moving forward on, and that we want to have other ideas added, we could have a special meeting, convened after the 2 committee meetings on Monday. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'll survey everyone. For the department heads listening, we need to have cost estimates already in hand. So projects that we know everything we need to know, we need to have that in hand. Starting from scratch projects, we're not gonna be able to get done by Monday, but I'll reach out to directors and survey everyone.
Thank you.
Chairman, I see Director Feldposh has got his hand up. If you'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Mr. Felposh.
Sorry, just one quick comment, because this is the first time I've heard about purchasing new ambulances in the meeting here tonight. And just for clarification, a new ambulance is about $230,000. So if you're thinking about trying to have $1 million project, you could go with 4, not 2, just trying to make sure you don't limit yourself by resolution. Thank you.
They don't have to be $1 million applications, but I mentioned that as, that I think those are projects that'll get looked at closely, but certainly we can apply for 2, 3, or 4.
Any further discussion before we vote?
Just one other thing, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Our Congress person is running for reelection. Her new district is Ingham and Livingston, but it excludes Oakland. So I would hope that would put Livingston in a better light in her mind.
A percentage of the district. Is that what you're saying? Any further comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Phew, motion passes. We're on to item number 12 on the agenda. That's the accounts payables reports. First up is claims dated March 28th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the claims?
So move, Gross.
Support, Smith.
Motion by Commissioner Gross, support by Commissioner Smith. Any questions or comments by commissioners? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion passes. Payables, there's dated March 5th through March 18th, 2022. Is there a motion to pay the payables?
So moved, Griffith.
Support, Smith.
Motion by Commissioner Griffith, support by Commissioner Smith. Any questions or comments from commissioners? So hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion passes. We're at the second call to the public. Just a reminder, this call to the public is limited to 2 minutes. Is there anybody in the room wishing to address the Board of Commissioners? Is there anybody on Zoom wishing to address the Board of Commissioners? I don't see any in the room nor on Zoom. Therefore, I'm going to close the call to the public and ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. So moved, Griffith.
Support, Gross.
Motion by Commissioner Griffith, support by Commissioner Gross. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? We're adjourned.